Good afternoon, crypto traders. Huge day. Congrats to the bulls and seeing a lot of strength outside of the crypto space as well. Pretty much all assets. What it looks like to me over the past 3 weeks is everybody rushed in one of the biggest asset liquidation periods in the history of mankind. And over the last 4 or 5 weeks, most notably the last few weeks, everybody's slowly putting their money back into different places, whether it's returning to crypto, returning to stocks, going into gold. These are all, we're seeing everything bullish today. Today it was very notable to me. This is one of the most bullish days I've seen in stocks since the bottom of the bounce. And not surprising that crypto is responding to that as well. S&P 500 is at the top of its weekly bounce, as is Bitcoin. Definitely some correlation there. We just had the FOMC, which is monetary policy information, and that happened at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we started to see a little bit of a top on Bitcoin after a massive run, but that top started seeing profit taking about 10 minutes before the FOMC. When did the S&P 500 start its profit taking? About 20 minutes before the FOMC. So again, very similar action. Obviously today goes to the crypto bulls as far as impressiveness and size of the bounce, huge volume, and things got very tight. We knew a break was imminent. We were so close, or we were so clear that a break was imminent that last night I did a vote for what time is this break going to take place. Whether it's up or down, we don't know, but we know it's so tight that a break and a volume spike are coming, and we had a couple people that nailed it within a few minutes, and we obviously saw huge follow through. So at this point, we're watching the 15-minute, which is holding exponential support. We built a base of support. Determine which time frame is most important for you in your trade. Because we've been watching this 4-hour time frame for days and saying the bulls are in absolute complete control as long as we just keep grinding this moving average. And we held it a dozen plus times and then we exploded. So we're obviously very overextended on a lot of time frames. We hit 9,000 and that's marking a temporary top. I'm not ready to call it a temporary top until we confirm a 5-minute downtrend with a lower high and lower low. So right now 85.70 is key support, and we're definitely seeing crazy volatility return, so you need to be very cautious, where in just 4 minutes here, we ended up with a drop of 4% or so, maybe a bit more, about 4%. So tons of volatility in the short term. Determine which time frame is most important for your trade. When we lose the 15-minute uptrend, when we lose the hourly uptrend, the 4-hour exponential moving average is my guide. I am bullish midterm on Bitcoin as long as that 4-hour moving average is support. Lose it and we'll zoom out and we'll look for a daily higher low to form, because at this point, anything above 67.76 is a daily higher low. So bulls are in complete control. We know we're still watching 10,500 key resistance. Bulls would love a V-shaped recovery. I've said in the past, if we're going to see a V-shaped recovery, in my opinion, it's going to have to be marked by increasing bull volume. And we could see that this week. We got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 more days. We're going to see increased bull volume this week in a most likely scenario. And I can say that, at least I'm looking at Coinbase. Obviously, the volume is going to be different on different exchanges. But we were at 99,000, we'll call it 100,000 last week. And here we are at 65% of last week's volume when we're only concluding our 3rd trading day. So we're not halfway through the week and we're 65% of the way there in volume. So obviously today was a huge spike to that volume, but we're going to anticipate volume to stay fairly high while we settle down from this volatility. So potential volume climax, marking the top. But again, tons of time frames where the bulls are just fine. So aside from that, the most notable thing going on today is the shifting going around in the cryptocurrency space with the altcoins. So the Bitcoin dominance chart is making a huge move, which tells us this big bull move on Bitcoin is specific to Bitcoin. Yes, the altcoins are going bullish as well, but nowhere near as strong as that spike that Bitcoin just saw. So we're looking at the weekly time frame now on this Bitcoin dominance chart, and we're watching to see, are we going to form a lower high compared to 68, which is the most important resistance, or can the bulls break 68 and resume a weekly uptrend? And that was a good save by the bulls. We had a bounce, we gave it all back, and a nice recovery here. And what it also has done has given us a clear bear break on ETH BTC. Look at that perfect triple top rejection and then a pullback. And now we are seeing weekly consolidation take place. We were looking for a weekly higher low, and the question was, are we going to lose the daily uptrend to set it or not? Well, now we've lost the daily uptrend. Low, high, higher low, weekly lower high being set, and we're going to look for a weekly higher low compared to 0.02. And we're going to look for this weekly time frame to tighten up. And I would say if the bulls hold the 12-period exponential support on this consolidation, they will keep favor on this pattern. If we lose it, it'll be anybody's game once we get a clear break. ETH USD. So it's seeing a bull break, absolutely. Inside bar, tight range, bull break, just not as strong as Bitcoin. Weekly resistance, 290. Anything under 290 is a lower high. Certainly still expecting that to be the most likely scenario, unless the bulls can pull off another 30% plus from here with no weekly consolidation. But we know as long as the daily uptrend is in control of the bulls, we're not looking to top out on the weekly. Litecoin. So Litecoin with a bull break as well. Certainly not nearly as impressive as anybody that we've already looked at, which I guess is only ETH and BTC. I was watching this chart, the LTC-BTC pairing, for the first time in a long time for the potential of a falling wedge. And we'll see where this daily candle closed, but it's looking like we're breaking bearish from it. So I was keeping an eye on it, but keeping an eye does not mean acting because we were still in a downtrend. If I'm going to act on a falling wedge, I need to see a bull break on increasing bull volume and a change of the trend, or at least a break of the lower high resistances. And we didn't get that, fortunately. We got the low, high of the bounce, higher low, lower high, bear break. We'll see if the bulls can save this support line, but on the verge of losing interest in Litecoin yet again. After it had it for about 2 days, I was watching this pattern, 2 or 3 days. XRP acted as a laggard. It broke bullish first. Look how tight we got on the daily. It broke bullish yesterday, which is very notable because if you've been watching my stock videos, I've been talking about laggard sectors for over a week now, where we saw the S&P 500 collapse and dump. We saw the tech sector lead the way to the upside, which is the strongest sector. And we saw a bunch of sectors very weak bounce over the last month. And that was hotels, marijuana sector, casinos, cruise lines, everything that you would fundamentally expect to be hurt the most from coronavirus had very weak bounces. Over the last week, we said, we're starting to see some tightening ranges shape up, and if the S&P 500 bulls stay in control, watch for laggard bull breaks in these weaker sectors. XRP has absolutely been a laggard bull on this bounce compared to everybody else. We saw a bounce, we hit weekly exponential resistance, and then we traded sideways for 2 weeks. And you compare that to Bitcoin, and we saw a bounce, we hit exponential resistance, and we saw the follow through sooner. So I view it as XRP being similar to those laggard sectors and playing catch up. So I'm curious actually now, what does the XRP BTC chart look like over the past 2 days? Well, it started great and then gave it all back. So led the way, and then Bitcoin said, hold my beer, and then said, nope, I'm going to go even further. But it was a little bit of a signal that the bulls were cooking. And XRP has tons of space for a daily higher low to form, keeping in mind weekly resistance still forever away, well over 50%. BNB, big upper wick. This is more profit taking than we're seeing on most coins. And that's a red flag, at least in the short term. Huge volatility, double top and dump. So that is definitely a bit concerning for bulls. I would expect to trade within this range on the hourly time frame for a while. Daily chart, higher low of support is 1474, and we dumped down to 1498. So technically we're still holding the daily uptrend, but we're not talking about anybody else at risk of losing their daily uptrend right now. So that does stand out for Binance. And we'll be watching for, let's see, the time frame I like the best, 15 minute. We're going to look for a bounce in a 15-minute lower high compared to 1779. And Link doing nothing. So Link's been leading the whole way to the upside, so our leaders taking a break and the laggards getting a move up. Same thing as the stock market. The tech sector has been taking a break, not today, but the previous 3 days, taking a breather after being the leaders of the entire bounce, and the laggard sector's catching up. So I'm seeing all kinds of parallels between the stock world and the crypto world right now, and we'll continue watching how long that's going to be the case. Again, S&P 500 today at the top of its entire bounce. Same with Bitcoin. For Link, if we fail to break 392 and we drop down and break 346, we will lose the daily uptrend and weekly consolidation will be underway. So it's still a daily uptrend at this point, but the bulls aren't positioned necessarily well for if we see Bitcoin get a bit more significant pullback, then the daily uptrend will be at risk. And this is a potential head and shoulders pattern where we've got our left shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, and if we fail to break the high and then roll over, that's your classic head and shoulders pattern going from an uptrend of higher lows and higher highs to a downtrend of lower highs and lower lows. So still holding on, but definitely keeping an eye on that support level. So that's what we're watching in the short term. Congrats to the bulls. 4-hour, 12-period exponential support is my guide. And we're watching the 5-minute trend. And if it breaks 85.70, we'll say, all right, temporary top set for now. Let's see what consolidation looks like on the longer term time frames. And we'll play the zoom out game, hourly exponential support, looking for a higher low, so on and so forth. So congrats to the bulls. Definitely a short squeeze going on in all over the place. That's why we're bullish in a lot of places here, stock market included. And you get to a point on Bitcoin where after you clear resistance, after you clear the top of this bounce of 78.10 and you clear 8,000 psychological, there's no resistance nearby. The next level is 92. So the bulls very easily are able to move through areas with a lack of previous price resistance, which is why you usually get equilibriums after dumps and after huge breakouts, because you clear the order book and it's much easier to move through that recently cleared space. So now, bigger picture, it's all about the daily uptrend and can we break 10,500 for an extremely impressive V-shaped recovery, or are we going to top out, set a weekly lower high, and see a weekly equilibrium? Volume will be a bit of a clue. Going to continue monitoring volume over the next couple of weeks. Thanks again, do good things out there, and we'll see you soon. For those of you that were around last year, we had this mama bird on that nest. Pretty sure it's the same bird. And dad doesn't sleep there, but he hangs around, and they are bug catchers. So they swoop around in the evening, catch the bugs, and once the babies are born, she's definitely sitting on eggs. And when they're born, both of them fly in to feed them throughout the day. Pretty good relationship though. Dad sleeps somewhere else, they each get their space. My kind of relationship. Sweepy duck. So I've decided that I don't feel like monitoring the greenhouse all summer. It's going to be too hard to keep it cool enough because I can't roll up the sides to it. So we'll keep the greenhouse for spring and fall stuff, and I'll just do the tomatoes and peppers in these pots outside. Last year, tomatoes in pots went well. Some strawberries are starting to come in.